Football wasn't bad in Castlebar last Sunday evening, but after the hurling banquet at Croke Park, there wasn't much room for supper.
Once again, I find myself with my friends, dancing the night away, it's like the party never ends. Then again, we don't want it to stop, cause tonight's the night. It goes sweatbox, laser beam, flashing lights, wild card.
Alan Brown's last point puts 3 between them.
No matter how many times you see it, the pictures still flood the screen.
Tom Kenny coming to it. And here it is with Mitch Jordan fed ahead there to the man. A goal!
Brilliant.
Fantastic score, Joe. Great ball.
Oxford fight back. And Rory McCarthy could be their saviour.
DJ, I should dance all night to this DJ. Oh my.
Porrick Joyce. The space closed down on Joyce. Goal chances. Oh no.
Galway clearly knew where the goals were because they kept pointing at them.
Inside, he may go himself. It's Porrick Joyce. Goal chance. Runs straight into break, and that was a glorious opportunity.
The only outcome, though, was that Donegal's clean sheet was a bit smeared around the edges.
Michael Meehan, he's got away from Sweeney. They badly need a goal. Tony Blake with a super save. Fallon being held up by McCready, and it's Blake again with a chance. Goal! Stopped on the line. It was Shane Carr who was there to deny Matthew Clancy, and Donegal get out of jail again.
So let me be a star for one night, that's right. Sweatbox, laser beam, flashing lights. You got to.
On Wednesday, some high-profile hurleys were released from commercial hostage. Shots were fired, but nobody was seriously hurt.
Always willing to take players' views on board, but there's a right way and a wrong way of doing everything. And if you were to allow individual sponsorship of each player's playing gear, in the end you'd finish up probably with mob rule, and you wouldn't have any national sponsors, or you wouldn't have any county sponsors.
On Sunday, 2 tribes go to war, Tipperary and Kilkenny. It's an old quarrel, but there's no sign of a settlement. Where would the fun be in that? John Carroll is broad-shouldered and ready.
I suppose I started out when I was very young playing with Tip, started under 14. Went down to the Tony Forrestal tournament, a tournament on for under 14 county teams, and graduated on to under 16 and won a Nina Co-op, and then on to minor, and lucky enough to win a minor All-Ireland in 1996. Tipperary would be a rural county, you know, and hurling is probably the main sport in the county, you know, and when Tipperary are going well, everybody's talking about the hurling, and like you go to any of the schools and all the young lads under 12 and under 10 and all that, and all they want to do when they grow up is hurl with Tipperary. It's not being a doctor or being a pilot or anything like that, it's hurling with Tipperary, you know. It is the biggest ever feeling is when you go out onto a pitch wearing a Tipperary jersey and the crowd roaring, you know. You're just hyped up to the last, and every match you go out, you'll be so nervous and just praying that you do well for the team and do well for yourself. My first year, 2000, was all about getting experience, you know, playing against Clare. We played Waterford and we played Clare, and then we went to the Munster final. And I suppose we weren't used to playing in the Munster final. In Thurles, there was 65,000 in Thurles, and the place packed to the rafters, you know. And probably got to us, you know, and probably stood to us the next year then when we went on and won the All-Ireland.
Oh, that's gone all the way in. Chances here, first chance, taken with him, not really.
Just the feeling in the final after winning is just unbelievable, you know, and to talk about GA players and all this, about getting paid and all that, and just that feeling alone is worth everything for the training you do in January and February and March. Just if you can get to that a couple of years in your lifetime, it's just some feeling. I started out in 2000 wing back, and in the first year, and I was lucky enough to go on and win an All-Star in my first year wing back, and just at the present time now I'm playing in the forwards. My biggest asset is probably my size, you know. I suppose as I got getting older, I wasn't able to carry myself. I was getting a little bit heavier than in my first year, you know, and like wing back is a position like where you have to be running back all the time, you know, and it was less strenuous on me in the forwards, you know, and I was more suited into the forwards role and trying breaking balls through to the boys and trying to win a few balls and maybe heading for goal the odd time, you know. Well, I suppose the biggest skill in the forward is being to score, but I wouldn't be great at that now myself. I'd have to leave it to natural scoring forwards. I wouldn't be one of them, the likes of Larry, and you have Owen there and Mark O'Leary are all natural scoring forwards. Well, I'm not, you know. I wouldn't find it dangerous at all. Like, I'm playing hurling since I was under 12. Like, it's just another match to me, you know. You could get a belt in the nightclub around the place or anything like that. just as easy as well. Hurling is just good physical game and I enjoy. I suppose when a team that hasn't won in All-Ireland in a while, like we did in Tipperary, won it in 2001, it's very hard to get a team right for the next year, you know, but things kind of went off the rails then. We played Waterford in the Munster final, and whatever happened, none of the team clicked, or we were beaten in every position by a Waterford team that year, and we just couldn't explain how we were so bad in it, you know. It happened this year as well against Clare in the first round, where just things didn't click, and we're very disappointed with ourselves, you know. Like every person in the team was beaten by the Clare man, you know, and they annihilated us by a big score. We decided, like, we just had a meeting between ourselves, and we decided that, like, we let ourselves down and everybody down and let the county down, and what we tried to do is whenever we went out to the next cup, try and redeem ourselves, you know, and we had a couple of weeks rest, and we played Laois, and we bet Laois, and then we went on, we had a big assignment up in Galway, and we bet them as well in Galway, and the last day against Offaly. So like, we wanted at the start of the year, after last year's semi-final defeat at Kilkenny, we wanted to have a rattle at Kilkenny in the semi-final or final of this year, whatever way it worked out.
Great work again here by DJ Carey.
Usually Tipper to have the upper hand on Kilkenny, but over the last couple of years, Kilkenny have the semi-final last year, Kilkenny beat us, and the league final this year they beat us as well. So we think ourselves that we own one, you know. We're going to go out and do our best, even though Kilkenny look the best team in the country, the best backs and the best forwards. But we'll give it a rattle and see how it goes.
Towards the end of last year's championship, a new slitter was introduced, but nobody really noticed. Croke Park's relayed surface was quite dead in its first season, and the bounce of the ball didn't seem any different. This summer, though, the new ball has whipped up a storm, leaping and jumping like a mad thing. With no thought for our own safety, we chased it down.
The first time I actually came across the ball was the Limerick game. As regards the bounce of the ball on the ground, we didn't experience that as badly, I suppose, as the Wexford and Kilkenny players did. Just from watching it on TV, there was balls coming maybe 70, 80 yards and they were hopping, and there was guys running out to them and the ball was bouncing over their head.
And the Wexford custodian sends it away down the field. In behind JJ Delaney, a chance to recover.
In 1998, in conjunction with UCG as part of a master's thesis, I developed at least 10 tests for the sliotar. Some of the most surprising things was, A, the quality of the leather. I was amazed that some of the manufacturers weren't using the standard leather and good quality leather, because if you use a poor type leather, the ball won't last as long, and the wear tests really showed that up. Another thing that was really surprising was the different types of centres. They varied from a full cork centre with no arm, which had very irregular bounce properties, to a full rubber centre, which again would have different bounce properties from the iron balls.
Now, the traditional ball normally encapsulates a cork core with some threading wound around that. Normally the threading is dipped in latex to minimise the amount of water that the ball will retain, and the last step involves putting on the leather cover. What we found is that the huge growth in the popularity of the game meant that the traditional suppliers, there are about 12, weren't able to cope with the demand. So inevitably and invariably people began to look at other ways in terms of ensuring that the demand could be met. What is actually happening is that there's a move towards getting a standardised core, something like this. It mightn't necessarily be the same as this. Some people would say it should be ideally a cork rubber mix. This is made of polyurethane, and others would claim that this should be the standardised core. So obviously there's different theories on that.
This is a new O'Neill's ball, and this is another ball. I don't know what kind of ball it is, but it's basically the same sort of inside as what we're used to. And just to demonstrate, I suppose, the small difference is, even to lay the ball in the hurley, it'll just bounce, and then to swap it over to the other ball, it's deader, and even the sound of it. Obviously, this one is easier to control because it's going to stop easier on the stick. This one is bouncing everywhere.
We have computed that something in the region of 500,000 sliotars are used every year. So obviously that's a huge market to meet. I think a fair number of them at this point have been imported from abroad, possibly Pakistan, as far as we can establish.
The goalkeeper will always have a bag of sliotars in the goal. So if you come across the ball, it's gone up the field. 30 seconds later, the goalie's taking maybe a fast puck out and comes back to you again. There's a strong possibility that the ball that he pucks out will be a different one. Just to show it, a lot will be described in the actual sound. Oh my God, that was awful. But it sounds much heavier than this, and just to hit it easy, and it's just a softer sound. So, and just to hit the ball as easy, it goes much farther. So that's a huge factor.
In terms of the integrity of the game, we feel that it's of the utmost importance that everybody's playing on a level playing field. And in that regard, it's important that if there is a standardised match ball, that everybody knows what that it is, and that all teams can use that ball as distinct from having a preference for ball A, B or C. That there's a specified core, there's a specified letter, and insofar as it's possible, there's no great difference between the ball in any game.
What the golf people do is they bring, I suppose, the manufacturers to Fairfield every year, and they ask them to submit 24 balls, and they go through a battery of tests, and only then is the ball deemed acceptable, to be used in major tournaments around the world.
We would envisage a situation where we would have a standardised core, possibly within the next 6 to 8 months. We would then go to the ball manufacturers and say to them, if you're interested in becoming an acknowledged or an approved manufacturer, you will have to use the standardised core. And the people who would manufacture those balls, those are the balls that would be actually used in matches, and people who didn't adhere to the standardised core, there would be nothing to prevent them from continuing on making slitters, but they wouldn't be approved for match purposes.
From the control point of view, I think it'll help the game in that way, because it'll help players' wrist work, because you have to be that bit quicker, and your mind has to be working that bit quicker as well. You have to be more aware, because this ball isn't going to stop dead on your hurley like the other balls will. It's actually going to hop, so you have to be ready for anything, really.
Wild thing, I think I love you, but I wanna know for sure.
Kilkenny won the Leinster title for the 6th year in a row, setting a new record. From beginning to end, though, the changes have been remarkable. Only 3 of Sunday's starting 15 played when the run began in 1998. Only 1 player has played in every minute of every game of every campaign. Michael Kavanagh, cornerback, cornerstone.
People talk about crisis in Leinster hurling, but I think if you look back to 93 to 98, before when I came on the panel, Kilkenny hadn't won a Leinster title. So at the moment Kilkenny are on a very good run, but that's because there's been an introduction of a lot of new players. Brian Cody has kept a freshness to the team, and he's introduced new players right through the years that he's been involved. The first years he brought in the likes of Noel Hickey and John Hine, Henry Shefflin. Later on he's brought in the likes of Jimmy Coogan, Sean Dowling, JJ Delaney. And in the later years, the last year, he's brought in the likes of Derek Kling, Brian Dowling and Mark Comfort. With the serious competition that's in there in our squad, we have 30 players, and Brian Cody is always saying that any of them could play any day, and that's what makes us, everyone is kind of looking over their shoulder and having to perform at their best in training, and that puts the extra pressure on the players, and it kind of brings the best out of us. Well, you can't keep everyone happy, and when you're talking about the commitment that goes into it now at the modern game, and the amount of training that goes into it, no one wants to be putting in that kind of effort to be not playing. It's important that that people show that appetite in training to get a place on the championship team. But it's only 15 lads can play.
Michael Kavanagh lets it bounce, recovers, however. He's a seasoned campaigner.
The last day out now, we play Wexford in the Leinster final. I suppose Wexford gives a tough game there, and they're probably a bit disappointed with their performance themselves. We got away from there in the second half and pulled off got some good scores there in the second half and pulled away from. I was fortunate to be there from the start of our run for the 6th in a row from 98 on, and I was lucky enough to play in all of the games involved. A few other players missed out in Leinster finals, and that the likes of DJ Carey and Peter Barry.
They're going to take some beating. Kilkenny, they haven't been beaten in Leinster now for the last 6 years. It's the county's first ever 6 in a row.
Probably something that was never done before within Leinster hurling, and to be part of it and to be the first to do it is I suppose an extra special honour. It's kind of a bit of a burden that you have to live with, and Kilkenny kind of people expect a lot, and they should be kind of appreciative of the run that we're on at the moment, and it's been 7 semi-finals now for Kilkenny in a row, and it's been a lot of good days out, and there's been a few bad days out as well, but you're not going to win them all. When we played Tip early on in the league there last year or this year, I suppose I suppose we were on the back of a very long run there. That run came to an end all right. It was a good game in Nolan Park, and they got ahead of us all right, and they got it by a couple of points. But we got to get revenge on them then later on in the league final, and that, I suppose that defeat earlier on kind of put our season back on track. The league final, I suppose, it was kind of strange kind of a game, you know. It was very high scoring and it was all attacking, you know, and there seemed to be a lot of goals going in, you know. I thought we were kind of gone out of it there in the second half, but up came in Charlie and Eddie, and they popped in a few goals, and it was a sweet way to get a victory in the league final. Bar the semi-final there last year, Kilkenny hadn't played Tips since '91, you know, but there's always been that rivalry that's always been there, you know. It's probably been that they're so close and on the borders and that, and being the traditional powers, and both of them we kind of claim the home of hurling title as well, you know, and being in different provinces as well, when it's Leinster versus Munster as well, and they don't meet that often. It carries that extra bit of bite into the matches, you know, and that's a bit special for the fans and for everyone involved. Come Sunday now, when you kind of run out onto the Croke Park pitch, you know, that's what it's all about, and that's what you kind of put yourself into inter-county hurling for, is days like that, and that's what you kind of train hard for. And these are the nights like in November and December and January when you're pushing yourself hard, and it's hard to see light at the end of the tunnel, but it's days like this that you really want to be involved, and it's the place any young hurler, any hurler aspires to be, wants to be out there on a day like that.
Some people are happy just to wear their heart on their sleeve. John Delaney's sleeve simply wasn't big enough.
That you bought today.
Some people call me a fanatic, a hurling fanatic, yeah. I mean, I do something every year for them. I paint and I put a lot of flags up and stuff. And I'm still not finished here either yet. There's more to do. The chimney is to be done now, you know. I'm from Kilkenny, and sure, it's not only hurling, you know. Everyone speaks and eats and drinks hurling, you know, all the time. It's great altogether, you know. You wait all the year for it to come around, you know. It's once a year and it's great, and you look forward to it all the year, you know. It's great altogether. And I hope Kilkenny is in it again this year. I think it'd be great, you have everyone put up some sort of colours, you know. Support the team. Every team needs a bit of support. You support them every year, you know, and hope to go the whole way, you know. Even though we have 27 All-Irelands, we'd like another one, you know, this year preferably. I'm not the only fanatic, hurling fanatic in Kilkenny. There's a place now called the Butts. There's 3 streets which they do up every year. Every house is done up. There's flags outside every house and banners across from house to house. It's really great in there, you know. As I say, I'm a one-off here. I'm on my own here, you know. It's a great crack. People stop and ask you questions about it. Why do you do it and all that, you know. Where do I get the paint and how much does it cost and stuff, you know. Sure, it's only once a year you spend a few pounds, so that's it. The cars stop all the time, you know, loads of them, hundreds of them. I've met people from all over Ireland over this house here, you know. I bought the paint in Callan, the farmer store in Callan. I bought the paint. You go for the black and amber course, you know. And that's more or less the 2 colours I use. I know most of the players anyway. I feel very involved with the team, you know. I go and watch them, train them at least once a week and that, and, you know, go to Dublin and watch them again, and anywhere they're playing I go most of the times anyway, you know, and hope the result is good. When the championship is finished in September, I paint over the house again, paint it back to its white again, you know, and get me paint ready for next year again, I hope. We'll do it again next year, something better, you know. Bring on the support, and I hope to have the McCarthy Cup here this year at the house. Win, lose or draw, the paint is going to dry.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of you.
The 10th anniversary had passed 3 months ago, but we only really remembered last Sunday. The league final of 1993, Cork and Wexford, and 2 epic draws. Could we be so lucky again?
When Alan Brown got the point, I think it was such a spectacular score in the context of the game that Cork had, having come back from probably a poor enough first half to be 4 points down at half time, and when 6 points down 10 minutes into the second half, I think any of us would have taken a draw at that stage.
Yeah, well, certainly after Alan's point, and it was from a very acute angle, I felt that, you know, it was giving Cork the impetus again, and, you know, you'd have to say that you couldn't see a way back for Wexford really, but having said that, they were still attacking and they were still creating the chances, and given the whole game, you know, anything could happen.
From this puck out, I would think Wexford have to get a goal to tie the match.
Damien's priority would have been to get the ball down to the forwards, and it's just the way the game was going that, I mean, it was full-blooded, it was passionate, and the guys were really, you know, they knew it was probably their last chance, or one of them anyway. And it's just one of those things, it's typical hurling, it's just the ball broke, and Mitch had the presence of mind to pass it into Rory, and I think it was an incredible goal.
Wexford fight back valiantly with great determination.
It means going to a replay, and I mean, we can remember a lot of replays. There was one in '90 in the league semi-final, but I suppose the more famous one was the 3 games in the final of the league in 1983.
We're into injury time.
It's a great game again, it's a fabulous game of hurling, and came down to a free at the end of it, and we hadn't been going well on frees that day, as I remember, and so they asked me would I take it, so took it, went wide, game over, replay.
John O'Connor is devastated.
Went to extra time in the replay, and still they couldn't separate us, so we finally went to a second replay, and unfortunately that day Cork got the upper hand.
Ger Cunningham is coming in, the number 16 is being prepared.
I remember sitting on the bench, and at the end of full time I got the call to come on at the first minute of extra time. Ball was planted in the back of net behind me, so I was saying, what the hell was I doing here? But there were 3 great games, 3 great hurling matches.
From a player's point of view, losing a replay, you know, we all sit in the quietness after the matches and we say, well, I wonder if had I done this, had I done that, you know, had it been closer, had we not fouled, had somebody not missed the point, all those things, you know, all the what ifs, and it doesn't matter what you do, you can't wind back the clock. It's gone forever.
John Conran seems to have introduced a different style of hurling. Now, they seem to be playing the ball around, playing it to one another a lot more. I mean, you saw the goal that Liam Dunn threw across the field. You know, he picked the ball up, looked up and played a cross-field ball. It's not what you traditionally associate with Wexford.
Donal O'Grady, you know, he's a great hurler himself, and I mean, you know, he's a great knowledge of the game, but obviously he's brought a tremendous organisation to the team, and he seems to have built a team of a true Cork team in the sense that, you know, they've lots of craft, they've lots of skill, incredible confidence, and you know, they're a good team.
There was a huge Cork support. I mean, it must have been the biggest Cork support at a semi-final that I've ever seen, and I mean, it was even emphasised by just the raid. I mean, the stadium was covered in raid.
Yeah, I've remember playing semi-finals, and you wouldn't have a couple of thousand Cork supporters there. I suppose the fact too, we haven't been there for 3 or 4 years since 2000. You know, that Cork people, I think they've taken to this team a bit as well.
Most Cork supporters were stunned, and Cork were somewhat disappointed maybe, but I think on balance through the game that Wexford, you know, we could have driven the advantage home, but it didn't happen, and to be fair, we're happy to get away with a draw. I don't see the replay as a disadvantage. I believe that Wexford will be stronger. I think they'll be mentally tougher. They have a great blend of youth and experience, and I think that's going to put them in great stead for next Saturday.
I think that they're going to be looking forward to the opportunity tomorrow to proving themselves that they are good enough to get to the All-Ireland final, and but at the same time, like Wexford like '93, they didn't go away.
Yeah, they definitely looked happier at the end of the last week. But I think the important thing is who's happy at the end, and if it takes 1 or 2 more draws, you know, whoever comes out on top, I think that's the time to be happy, you know?
Absolutely.
Next week on Breaking Ball.